done us something shocking. Now heaven knows anything goes. Hey, good authors too who want to do better words, now only use 4 letter words writing clothes. Anything goes. Welcome to the Good Sex Guide, the show that lights up your love buds. And have we got some juicy stories for you? We go to a sex school in Miami.
Anybody recognize him?
Then climb aboard our chopper to Nepal.
No one else at my school is married yet apart from me.
And finally settle for a one-night stand in London. Most people grow out of one-night stands, but can you ever grow too old to make love? Can you be too wrinkly to do the do? Not in Florida, as Michael McNally finds out.
Miami was a stylish joint back in the 30s. In amongst the palm trees and the swanky hotels, many a young couple swooned and fell in love. These days, those same lovers have long since retired from their jobs. And sadly, many have also retired from sex. But even if most are content to spend the rest of their lives on the sexual sidelines, there are still a few who thrive on the prospect of a twilight fling.
Florida University runs a course on sex, love and relationships for those who've still got the urge but forgotten what to do with it.
In my position, anything I can learn about sex or love or relationship sounded very interesting.
65-year-old Oscar Brillo is a widower on the lookout for a new partner.
I'm looking for a nice middle-aged man who's loving and understanding. He would have to be to know my situation. I am not a single woman, although I feel like it.
Connie is 67 and looks after a husband who is incapacitated with Alzheimer's disease, and she wants a bit of tender loving care herself.
How do you know it feels good if your partner doesn't know quite what to do?
This class is designed by 64-year-old Judy Minolkin, and it aims to kickstart the sex lives of the over 50s by familiarising them with terms they've been afraid to use in the past.
You can use professional language in here. What's that called?
You say it, Rhoda.
What is it? Fucking!
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness. Good for you. Yes, you got an A. Yes. I think what most people need is permission to be sexual, that it's okay, that it's healthy, that it's wonderful, and they need some information. What is this?
Vibrator.
A vibrator. What's it used for?
Massaging your back.
Massaging
and your body.
And your body.
Any parts of your body.
Any parts of your body. This works wonderfully to bring you to orgasm. We haven't mentioned the word, but it's always there at the end of the trail. I've had 75 and 76-year-old women telephone me to ask, where do you get a vibrator and how do you use it? And it's wonderful. They can then begin to have orgasms again, because women can have orgasms forever. But when you have negative messages about your genitals, you're not going to feel good about yourself, and you're not going to be openly sexual, because who wants to deal with this? Men begin to slow down with their erections, so that slows down a bit. They don't have them as frequently. And sometimes they need a little more direct penile stimulation to have an erection. And that, for many women, has become an advantage because they begin to use some other activities and behaviors to enhance sexuality, not just intercourse. Anybody recognize him?
It's not me.
It's not you?
The King's Jewel.
The sex is important because I want to feel vital and female and sexy at my time of life.
What else are some other sexual activities besides just sexual intercourse that are erotic and intimate?
Toys.
Toys, yes.
Part of the course involves field trips to sex shops in order to get the class comfortable with the language of love.
I'd suggest a little lubricant first.
How do you touch this off?
Look at this. Is there anybody in the world? Oh, God.
With anxiety.
I didn't even know these things existed.
Like an elephant went to a
Gift
zoo.
or something, isn't it?
That's
The butterfly, when you put it on, goes on the clitoris. And then when you're having sexual intercourse and stuff, you can start the vibrator on and it will massage your clitoris. You put this on your penis and you create a vacuum and you do that and you get an erection, if you're a man.
Key to ladies' restroom.
Now you'll know where to get some cute.
Cock rocker. Oh.
I want the whole 9 yards. I want the romance and the tenderness and the necking. And then we'll go into more serious things.
Thank you. Welcome to Margot's Ballroom in Miami, where the young at heart dance the night away to steamy Latin rhythms. Tonight is singles night, and already the dance floor's buzzing with the expectations of hundreds of love-seeking senior citizens. It's time for the students of sex to graduate.
Florida has 45 singles clubs for the over 50s. This one in Miami is run by Margot. She claims to have introduced at least 50 couples who have ended up tying the knot.
I find they're all very sexy, and they're very interested in sex. I mean, when you look and you see them, they want to mate. They want to meet somebody that they can love. They want to meet someone they can relate to. And I really think they want sex.
I ain't got nobody. Oh, and there's nobody that cares for me. There's nobody that cares for me.
Sometimes they meet and they're both looking for a little excitement in their lives. And by the end of the evening, they go in one car or another car and they smooch like teenagers. And sometimes if they have a van, they do more.
So have you got your eyes on anyone yet? Has anybody caught your eyes? Yeah.
They're not looking for companionship as much as they're looking for that spark, that sexual spark. And they do find it. It's amazing, really. It's still out there. It's not dead, even at 90. So there's always hope.
Oh, whilst the golden girls and boys in Florida are flirting like mad trying to find a dream date to kickstart their sex lives, over here, some young people are also getting their kicks, but variety's the name of the game. Here, it's find 'em, forget 'em, and flee. Next! Oh, darling. Why do you think girls and fellas have one-night stands?
It's the excitement.
Wasn't it danger?
Danger.
The thrill is that until you get there, you don't know if you're going to get it.
Jolly good bit of rampant sex.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Remember sex you never have.
You don't have to have all these people saying, oh, I love you, and all that rubbish.
You don't feel nothing for him, and he don't feel nothing for you, and you think,
It's really one night of passion, one night of lust, one night of experience with a person who you've never met before and you will probably never meet again. I have a long-term partner. We've been together for about 5 years and we're very happy, but we both go elsewhere for sex.
I'm gonna mess with you.
I've been having one-night stands from probably the age of 15, 16. Any form of long-term relationships I've never been able to get on with. I feel that I become claustrophobic, suffocated. I feel that I have to get out.
I would maybe see a man that I like, sit in the park, chat to a man, maybe say, do you want to go for a drink? And then it's a case of making signals, maybe talk about sex openly with him. Obviously you don't know him, so he's going to take this as a fairly forward signal. I mean, men very infrequently turn down casual sex if it's offered. And some people would regard a woman as a slag, a slut, whatever. It's never really bothered me. I think safe sex is incredibly important for a one-night stand. I would never have sex with someone who refused to wear a condom because you don't risk your life for excitement.
I tend to go out on my own on odd occasions, the reason being that I'm not sort of dragging anybody else behind me. I usually find out at the very start whether we're going to go places by finding out whether they are in a relationship for one, whether they have been in a relationship for a long time, or whether they're quite free and easy about the whole situation. It's easier when you meet somebody who actually plays the game as well, who has one-night stands on a regular basis. The reason being because therefore you can cut corners, you don't have to beat around the bush, as it were. You're exploring somebody else's body, somebody else that you don't know at all, a stranger. There's no strings attached, and that's always probably the best part of it. And it's one night of their lives and one night of my life that we meet, and then we go our separate ways. I think people who say that it is a selfish act hasn't really experienced the benefits of having one-night stands. I find it very fulfilling for myself, and usually the women who I'm with find it very fulfilling, and that makes me very happy.
You can always leave early in the morning, but being caught doing that is cripplingly embarrassing, really. I think my classic one was not being able to get out of the front door because I couldn't work it. But really, be friendly, be polite, and just sort of slip out of the door with the least fuss possible.
Hey, I reckon our sexpert Susie will have a thing or two to say about one-night stands.
It's a form, really, of glorified masturbation, which, you know, you may feel at the time is what you want, and it may be what you want. What about the other person? And how is it actually going to affect you when you think back on the fact that you're doing something without any real appreciation about how the other person really feels about what's going on? In other words, they may think there's a relationship starting. You have no intention of doing that.
Is it dangerous to have one-night stands for both men and women?
Obviously, if you're having sex with someone that you don't know what they may be carrying, you don't know what they've been doing in previous relationships, it's not just a question of using a condom, actually. It's being careful in all sorts of ways, because there are infections that can be passed on even if you do use a condom. You have to be careful about raising blood, exchanging all sorts of body fluids. So I think the physical dangers have to be uppermost in your mind. And there's another type of physical danger. You don't know this other person. That's the thrill of a one-night stand, that you don't know them. How do you know what's going to happen when you're actually alone with them? So I think you have to keep that in mind, and men have to keep it in mind as well. This is not just a message to women to watch out for those nasty rapists out there. You know, men can also find themselves in a rather sticky situation they're not happy about.
Thanks for that one, Susie. After the break, we meet Sering, a Nepalese lass who's got 4 husbands, and they're all brothers. The youngest is only 10. Let it goes. Welcome back. Next, the Good Sex Guide hops abroad to Nepal to look at how several brothers manage to share one wife. How does she cope? And do the brothers ever get jealous, like Grant and the other one in EastEnders? While Chris Packham was the only man with the thighs for this job. He hiked up the Himalayas to find out.
This is a story, in fact a romantic story, about a husband going back to see his wife after being away for 10 months. The thing is, she's been with her husband, in fact 3 husbands, all of that time. You see, it's not unusual, it's in fact the tradition here in Western Nepal for a woman to marry a whole family of brothers, in this case 4 of them. The eldest, Rinzin, is on his way home.
I've been away for 10 months, so I'm really happy to be back, to be coming home and to be going to see all my family again after all this time. I don't have to worry about my wife while I'm away because I'm the eldest. All the others are getting on with their own thing and doing their job. She's my wife, she loves me, and when I get home, she'll still love me.
This is the entrance to the village of Nimatang, 10,500 feet up in the Himalayas and 18 days' walk from the nearest road. Rinzin's come back to a way of life here that's been virtually unchanged for centuries. He's been brought up with 3 generations of his family, all practising a system of marriage called polyandry, one wife shared between a family of brothers.
This will always be my home. This is where I'd like to live. It's my birthplace. It's where I was born and where I know. I have to travel and go away to do business and study, but I'll always come back here because this is where I want my home to be. It's where my home is.
If Rinzin had left with his wife, Sering Kamsum, when they got married 3 years ago to set up a new home, then the family's land and wealth would have been split up. But by sharing her between the 4 brothers, the family keeps what it owns together. There are 4 brothers married to Sering Kamsum. There's Rinzin, who's 21, then Sendup, who's 18 and away studying, and then Ergin, who's 16 and still at home. But the youngest of all of those husbands is only 10, Nima Tenzing, and he's still here at school.
No one else at my school is married yet apart from me. But I don't think the big age gap between me and my wife will be a problem. It's our custom from our ancestors. I think about 35 is a good age for our wife to have a baby. Because when a girl gets too old, it is very difficult and hard for her to have a child. When I want to sleep with my wife, I must first ask my elder brother Rinzin, because he is the head of the family.
One of Sering Kamsum's few moments of escape is to the family's watermill to grind the barley, one of her many chores. But what sort of relationship does she have with Rinzin's younger brothers? Is she a wife or a big sister?
Although I do think of the younger ones as my husbands, well, they don't really behave that way. They're too young. But as they get older, I hope they will love me. At the moment, I only have a sexual relationship with Rinzin, the eldest one. I talk to the younger ones and get on well with them, and they really like me, but they haven't come to me for sex yet. We're still just friends.
Rinzin's father, Jampa, shares his wife with 4 other brothers. 2 are away at present with the family's animals, the rest are rebuilding their house. Their wife, Chedoma, has to know how to balance her affections.
Living with 4 men, you're obviously living with 4 completely different characters, and that can be a problem. Having to get to know each one and how to behave with each one. It's up to me to keep the balance between them. So if one starts getting jealous and needs more of my attention, or I need to sleep with him more, then it's up to me to do that, to keep the balance and harmony in the family. Actually, you know, it's a very difficult job.
We take turns to sleep with our wife, but we're sensitive to each other's needs. So if one brother comes back from looking after the animals, then we know it's his turn with her, and the others will keep out of the way. The whole time we take turns, and it works out. Our wife, Chedoma, loves us all equally, which is why we can stay happily together. This has been the way for generations. The system works for us. It keeps food on our plates.
If she didn't love us all the same, then our hearts would break.
When a child is born here, it's important to know who the father is. But with 4 or 5 husbands as contenders, it's the wife that has the final say. But she has to make sure they all get their turn.
From the eldest brother, I have 3 children, and from the next one down, I've 2. From the third one, who looks after the sheep, I've 3. And from the 4th brother, I had 2, but one died. So that's the number of children I have. There's no rules about the number of children I have to have by each husband. I don't have to have a certain number by the eldest one or the next one down. It really just depends on how much I sleep with each of them.
According to our wife, I have 2 daughters and a son. But she's the only one who really knows whose the children are. My children will look at the other fathers and treat them equally. And my brothers will treat the children the same no matter who the real father is. We all love the children, and the children love all the fathers in an equal way.
In the local language of Nimba, there's no word for what we think of as romantic love. In fact, it doesn't seem to exist at all. Marriage here is a much more practical arrangement.
When you have this many husbands, the work is no problem, because there are plenty of people to do it. Really, the main problem is who you spend time with, because you have to keep a balance sexually. But the purpose of marriage isn't just about sex and having a good time with someone. It's about having a good home life, a good base, somewhere to be yourself and to be as a family. But of course, sex is a big part of it too.
That's all for now, folks. But don't forget, next week's our last show. Oh, no. But we've got dangerous liaisons in Britain.
Well, I met a girl at half-time at Main Road, and then when leaving the ground, offered to kiss her goodnight, and one thing just led to another.
It's really naughty.
Exciting.
And it's... You may get caught, but if you do get caught...
You can get a quick getaway. The Philippines.
I think that's the only way to know you're the man is to have sex with him.
And South Africa.
They would park outside or go across the road with their binoculars and wait till they see you go in together and time you and hope to catch you in the act. And then they would take the woman's panties, you know, and inspect that.
So join us then. Come on, fella.